curious. Because I have my own room. It's like, there's a
What
reason
what
for life. But, that horse is a wrestling show.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, September 10th, and we're here for our regular scheduled county commissioner meeting. We have Commissioner Mullen and myself. We have a quorum. We have our county administrator and our clerk of the board. And at this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask everybody to please rise and join in the pledge. All right, the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the current agenda.
Move to approve. As presented.
I second. There's been a motion and a second to adopt the current agenda as printed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comment. Is there anybody in the room for public comment or anybody on the phones? Okay.
Good morning, gentlemen. Missed you for a week. I'm sure you missed me too. I'm looking at your action item, Resolution 2025-264. And last week, we were going to have a workshop on what a First Amendment petition is and how to use those to address and the grievances with your government. These are issues that do not go through the courts. They are directly to the government, of the people, by the people, and for the people. When they cross and mix powers, that's unconstitutional. When they're unconstitutional, Amendment 14, Section 3 says they're removable from office, and there is a process. It's not an easy thing, but it is a doable thing. Washington State is tyrannizing their people. They're allowing an invasion. We do not have an immigration problem. And a First Amendment petition is where people get signatures that do not go through the Secretary of State. They can be collected unlimited in time, and they have to be a citizen. That is all. And you don't even have to be a citizen of Franklin County, and you can sign it. Franklin County should be leaving this. And I hope to get back on the docket very soon, because there's a lot at stake. Right now, Patty Murray is violating her oath of office by blocking Peter Serrano. I have written our legislature. They have the right to argue their consent according to Article 5 of the Constitution that she must represent us. He won 65% of the counties, 45% of the vote. He has 3 cases before the courts, constitutional. And he also worked in the, I think, the oil rigs in California State. She is lying. And I've spent $124 contacting Thune, Grassley, Tillis, by fax, certified mail, and even the White House. And that may sound, oh, they're not going to listen to you. The federal government guarantees a republic form of government, which means every voice counts, not just Patty Murray's. Please get us back on the docket.
Anybody else for public comment? Nobody on the phone? Don't see nobody coming forward. Move down to the approval of the consent agenda, and I believe we have 13 items on the consent agenda today.
Move to approve consent agenda items 1 through 13 as presented.
I second. There's been a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moves us down to regular business. Action item, Human Services Agreement. Mr. Danzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you gentlemen know, our contract with Benton County for Human Services expired in June. And what I'm looking for today is simply your direction on how you wish to proceed with that. If you want to try and renew that agreement, or if you don't, I just need a motion and a second as to how you would like me to handle that. Thank you very much.
I'll make the motion to authorize the county administrator to notify Benton County that Franklin County will not be renewing the agreement for human services.
I second. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Takes us down to item number 2, which is Resolution 2025-264, Supplemental Appropriation for the Office of Public Defense, presented by Mr. Ziegler. the one and only Mr. Ziegler.
Morning.
Good morning.
I tried to make the ASR as comprehensive as I could to give you an idea of what's going on. This basically came to my attention from Mr. Anderson in the auditor's office. The only mistake I made in the ASR, we actually have another homicide pending as of earlier this week, so now we're up to 10. And they cost a lot of money. The ballpark on 10 is about $250,000. That doesn't take into account experts I might have to hire, extra investigations I might have to conduct.
Mr. Ziegler,
Go ahead.
could I ask you a question?
Yes.
Of these pending homicide cases, are any of them illegal aliens that have committed them?
I haven't looked. That's a possibility, just given the high percentage of illegals that we deal with on the criminal docket every week.
Could you get us that information?
I will.
Because that would be something that we really need to get in touch with. And I know that this state is adamant in defending people that are not citizens of this country, and we have got to get this in order. We think we need to reach out to the Trump administration for some help, if this is the case.
I'll get you the information, or try
Thank you.
to at least. Other than that, I pretty much said, as you both know, I think by now, I've had 2 recent rule changes from the Supreme Court. The first was the 8.3 that said in 10 years, we have to reduce the case caps. What they said was, we're supposed to reduce by 10% a year. I figured out if we reduce 6.5% a year, at the end of 10 years, we can actually get under the 47 cap that's supposed to apply to all the counties by then. Now, I have no idea if we're going to get there or not. Right now, but right on top of that, now they've promulgated a new rule that says a defendant who formerly had to appear for arraignment within 14 days of his or her first appearance in a courtroom, well, now they've decided to reduce that to 3.
This is our state Supreme Court.
This is the state Supreme Court again, and I immediately had a conference with Mr. Sant. I said, how are we going to accommodate this? Mr. Sant will decide, what gets filed and when it gets filed. I've suggested to him, maybe we could try to cluster these appearances 2 days a week, and I can find somebody to cover those arraignments so that we can comply with the rule.
No, Mr. Ziegler, clarify for the public that are listening out there and the people that are in the room, if they're not arraigned then in those 3 days, what happens to these prisoners?
They're released.
There you go.
So we're looking at that. The defendant, I think I agree with Mr. Sant's position on this. The defendant still has a constitutional right to waive that 3-day requirement, and it may or may not be in the interest of a given defendant to do that. So I wouldn't argue against that either in the appropriate circumstances, and that may take some pressure off. But what I'm afraid is I would say 8 out of 10, this will probably end up, it's either going to cost me more money to pay a current attorney that we have to do additional work, or to go out and actually find somebody new to pick up the slack on these arraignments. And I can't tell you which way that's going to fall right now. But that's the basis for the request.
And your request is for dollar amount?
I think 600,000.
Dollars? I knew the answer to that. I just wanted to make sure it was clarified. That's a big ask when we're in a tight pinch here for our sales taxes going down. You can see what the state's doing to us here. They're squeezing us. They're
I hope
making us.
there won't be any more before the end of the calendar year, but I'm not going to say. I've never seen anything like this. It's like they want to do an overhaul that should take years. They want to do it in months. The original proposal was they weren't going to give us, they wanted it all done to commence immediately. You just simply cut the case cap immediately, which would have wiped out every county and city in the state. Nobody had the budget. And I went to the hearing in front of the Supreme Court on that, and I could see in their faces, they were getting opposition from King County. Simply told them, we don't have this kind of money, we can't do this. And it was one speaker after another, and it was like a 99% opposition because it was financially impossible. So then they came out with this new one that says, we'll give you 10 years, you have to drop, or you should drop 10% a year, and we'll come and review you at the end of 3 to see if you're making a good faith effort or if you've complied. That's where we are right now as of today.
And this is for a 2-year period, that's 600,000?
That's just to get me through to the end of this year. I'll probably add 600 on the budget that I proposed already. Just, I don't like to keep coming here asking you for more money.
And quit.
It's a good thought.
No, not quit. I mean, quit coming here asking for money.
That's good.
I wanted to clarify that. We need you, Mr. Ziegler. We need you. Well, this is a tough ask, and it's a tough thing to try to put through. And Mr. Danzel, do we have the funds that we can make this happen? And where are we going to get them from?
Yeah, we do. It's in the resolution where it would be funded. And frankly, the most difficult budgets to plan for are all associated with the courts. The prosecutor's office, the actual court itself, OPD, because it's out of our control. Mr. Ziegler doesn't control how many homicides are taking place, and neither does anybody else in that apparatus. So it's just one of those things that from time to time, there will be something like this that happens where you have a significant increase in the number of cases that require, as Mr. Ziegler said, a certain level of representation and maybe the experts to be called in. And sometimes they might not have an expert in the States, so they'll have to call them from across the country and put them up and board them and feed them and all the things. And so anyway, we're at a kind of a, I get into it a little bit more, frankly, in our workshop today, where there's a structural gap between some of the state mandates and what the counties have to come up with. This is one of those that's unavoidable. So if otherwise, the whole idea would be that we would violate those people's rights by not giving them representation. Now, nobody runs for office on that platform, and it's not something that anybody wants to really talk about even when it comes to how to fix the issue. But I appreciate Mr. Ziegler coming here because at the same time, he is one of the folks that's willing to talk about how to fix the issue and has formed coalitions to go about letting folks know how unaffordable it is. And he's done so from a standpoint of, out here in Franklin County, as well as these other counties that we're trying to work with and form these coalitions, that we're just down the road, we're not going to be able to do this. We're not going to be able to afford it. And so, again, if the ask was coming from an individual that had a checkered past as far as dealing with budgets, and if he was always coming in and asking historically for budget increases, it'd be something to raise your eyebrow at. But not only does Larry hates being here today. We talk about this on a weekly basis, and the predicament that the Supreme Court has put not just him in, but the county in, is something that's going to need to be dealt with. There's just no other way about it, because all the local rural counties out in the entire state, besides like King and Thurston and Pierce, Snohomish possibly, are going to be suffering because of this. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but and I don't like the idea of having to transfer that kind of money either, but it's truly unavoidable. The only other way that you can get out of having expensive OPD cost is an answer that you don't like, and that is to, that the prosecutor not charge these violent, terrible crimes. And we want law and order. So it's kind of it's a balancing act of how to be able to deliver that in a financially prudent way. I would recommend passing this resolution. I'd recommend empowering Mr. Ziegler to keep on doing what he's doing with those coalitions and trying to get people educated on this issue. Thank you.
And if I could request that, again, that you come back to us with those homicides and
I'll look into it.
who we're forced to represent if they're not citizens of the United States.
I'll see what I can find out.
Thank you.
For the record, I don't know that the sheriff is even allowed to ask those questions anymore, but I'll find out. That's part of the pressure that we're getting as well. Well, I'm not gonna say it. Well, I am gonna say it. We're dealing with a situation here. I've been at this job for over 40 years. And when I started in this job, the job of a criminal defense lawyer was to protect the constitutional and statutory rights of a defendant charged with a crime. But we've reached a point in Washington and Oregon and California and New York and other states where now it's assumed that we're supposed to actually put the interest of the criminal class against the interest of the victim and the taxpayer. And it was never meant to do this, because we've always been taught, I was taught from the first day of law school, that one of our responsibilities was to play a role and to administer this system to maintain public confidence. And they don't care. And I went to that Supreme Court hearing, and I listened to all the speakers stand up from counties and cities and say, we can't do this. And you could see in the faces of the justices, we don't care. This is what we're going to do in Washington. And I wrote Justice McLeod, and I asked her point blank, how many council people did you talk to? How many county chairmen did you talk to? Commissioners? Before you just threw these numbers on the table and said, comply. And of course, she never answered, because we don't exist. Their disdain for Eastern Washington is so apparent that, I mean, I just accept it as a given. That's what we're dealing with on this side of the Cascades. Sorry, but that's reality.
And we just witnessed a horrendous crime.
Yeah.
A young lady got stabbed. The guy was arrested and released 14 times. Mm-hmm. That's what we're facing in our state here. The unsafety of our state due to the fact that we don't have law and order because of our state Supreme Court.
I take it a step further. I think what we're facing is a breakdown because we've dispensed with the whole idea of personal accountability and personal responsibility for the things we do in our lives. It's always somebody else's fault. I mean, I did this job as an actual lawyer in the courtroom for over 30 years. And if I had a nickel for everybody that blamed everybody else for why they were suddenly wearing an orange suit, I wouldn't be here. I'd be on my estate somewhere in Florida. And until we have a culture again that says, hey, when you put yourself in a bad situation, it's time to start looking in the mirror if you've done it 14 times and say, the only reason I'm wearing this orange suit is because I made the decision to commit an act that put me in the suit. But I don't see that yet in Washington, and I definitely don't see it on the west side. It's all our responsibility and it's all our fault. We created these poor people. And they're wrong. That's not what's going on. That's enough.
Well, we just ask you to keep pursuing the avenue that you're going with and trying to make alliances with other counties. And if there's anything that we commissioners can do, we want to help.
Keep that crowbar handy for your coin purse.
I got coins in my pocket I'll give you right now.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. And thank you for your service to our country, ladies and gentlemen. He's a Vietnam vet also.
Move to approve Resolution 2025-264 as presented.
I second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moves us down to Resolution 2025-265, approval of Franklin County policy to start exempt employees according to Washington State mandate minimum salary threshold. Ms. Wilder.
Good morning.
Morning.
So the resolution before you, because we have a mandate from the state for Washington, or the threshold for exempt employees, currently on our matrices, it starts at, I think, a grade 16, step 6, 17, step 4, 18, step 2, so on and so forth. We have, you've had several requests brought to you already this year to increase employees when we're hiring them on to meet that salary threshold. This resolution would just make that, just streamline the process. So instead of a request being brought to you every time there's going to be a hiring of that position, we would just verify what their grade they're going to be on and then put them at the appropriate step when they're hired on. So if you have any questions.
Just a statement. Another mandate by the state spending our money. And if we hire somebody at this position that maybe, I don't know, qualifications, if they're not all there and we still want to hire them, do we still have to hire them at this threshold, right?
Yes, as exempt employees, there is a minimum threshold.
So if you wanted to bring somebody in and bring them along so they could learn, you can't start them lower. You got to start them at this threshold.
Correct. And just for your information, for this year, it's 2.25. Next year, it's also going to be 2.25 times the minimum rate. For 27 and 28, it's going to go up to 2.5. So it will increase as well.
I think it's time for a 51st state. So if there's no further questions or comments, look, for entertain a motion.
Move to approve Resolution 2025-265 as presented.
I second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moves us down to Resolution 2025-266, step increase to qualify exempt employees to meet. We've already went through this. This is just another resolution for the same topic, correct?
Well, this is for 3 individuals who were employed. One was promoted, 2 were actually brought on earlier this year, and we missed that step that they were being brought below. So this is for 3 individuals specifically
To meet that threshold.
to meet that
The
threshold.
mandate by the state,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, they do go together. It was just, this one was done, and the other one was still up for question whether we were gonna bring it. They're just being brought today at the same time.
Move to approve Resolution 2025-266 as presented.
I second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you. Takes us down to Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Danzel.
Thank you, pardon me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. I met with Jeff Briggs, Wes McCart, and Eric Johnson to discuss some of the issues related to the work that Eric is doing on behalf of the Board of Commissioners. I met with Commissioner Didier and Commissioner Mullen individually to discuss the agenda. Met with Wes a little bit, not long enough. We need to get together some more to discuss some of the issues at planning and building. There's not, that kind of sounds bad, like there's not necessarily issues that are bad taking place, but just kind of looking at long-term goals and how to accomplish them. And I think that there are some discussions that probably need to be had with the board eventually. Met with McKinstry to discuss the HVAC project out at Hapo and what sort of backup power source we want to use for that whole entire program, or what we can use. It's getting more and more regulated on that end too, to where natural gas, for example, isn't able to be used unless you get a blessing from certain individuals. So anyway, it's a real long, convoluted mess to try to do business in this state sometimes, it seems to me. Met with the auditor staff to work on the financial policies that we'll be bringing forward. And I just got to say thank you to the auditor staff, Mr. Briggs, for being so patient. We look to get these financial policies vetted also by the treasurer's office. Margot, I've actually got a portion of it I got to send to you from HR. And then I look to be able to hopefully within about a 2-week time frame have it on the agenda and be ready for you gentlemen to look at. But I believe you'll be proud of it. You'll be happy of what we're trying to accomplish with it. And it'll help inform our budget process so that instead of kind of guessing what we should do, we'll have something that's process oriented with goals in mind. To be able to do the things that you want to do in the budget, not just now, but in the future. And so it'll direct us to put certain monies aside and to not tap into a reserve unless certain thresholds and benchmarks are hit, and how are we going to go about it. And it'll kind of tell us our goals of how long it's going to take to meet the reserve that we need to have to be able to operate efficiently and prudently. So I appreciate all the work that all those individuals have done, and they've come together, I think, in a very good capacity and been working for a long time to try to get these implemented. There's a lot of folks that have wanted to see this on the books for a long time, and we're finally getting there, so I'm excited about that. I met with Matt Henderson, our new broker. I have an additional meeting with Matt coming up later on today. And met with Mackenzie, Margot, and Ryan from the auditor's office regarding CBAs and just the cost of potentially what we might be doing moving forward on certain CBAs. I got to say a big thank you to those individuals as well, because it's a big time commitment, and we need to be accurate with those, but we also have to do so in a way that's moves it along. So it's been pretty busy lately. That'll be the end of my report. Of course, if there's anything you all would like me to be working on, just let me know.
Thank you. Commissioner Mullen?
So I met with Mr. Danzel on the agenda. Also had conversations with local residents about ADUs in Franklin County. And along with the ADUs, I would just remind everybody, if you do have plans for those and septic systems, that the septic system laws are going to be changing drastically in January of 2027. So if you have plans to put something like that in, I would address it as soon as possible. Also met with Mr. Leisure on the planning of the Hapo Center. And that concludes my report.
Light week for me also, agenda meeting, and I really appreciate it, Mr. Danzel. You taking the time, you even came out to the farm because you know how busy I am right now, and brought the packet and we went over it. And I appreciate the effort that you're putting into this county. Thank you. Had phone calls about the potholes that are happening here on our roadways. One of them, which is not our roadway, it is Pasco's, and that is going north out of town. There is one that is so bad. A guy hit it that he said he thinks he messed up his front end, and then I got a call from another one on Dent Road, west of 68 there. And I drive that road all the time, and I haven't seen it, so maybe I just haven't hit it. But he said his son hit that pothole, and it messed up his car. Had phone calls on taxes, property taxes, because everybody's feeling the pinch here on this farming situation in the United States, and the Midwest is in a lot worse shape than we are. We've got farmers back there that are blowing their corn crop. The one footage I seen, the young man who was a farmer said it was the best corn crop he's ever raised, and he's just blowing it back out on the ground because there's nobody that'll take it. And that's the situation we're in this country right now. And it's dire. It's not good out here in our neck of the woods either. We've already had one bankruptcy filed, and there's probably going to be a lot more coming. So it's tough when farmers don't have no COLA that they can put in for. It's what you earn, and when you don't earn it, and we're being asked to pay more taxes because our assessments are going up because of teacher unions, other government entities buying ground out in our blocks and paying exorbitant prices such as $27,500. It does drive up the price of our land values, which creates more taxes. And that's why I've said, and that'd be tough to do here in this state with this legislature that we got, that we need to follow California's lead. And I won't say this about anything else but this, and that is Proposition 13 and the Williamson Act, which you pay taxes on the amount that you pay for that ground and when you paid for it. And that way, if somebody wants to come in and pay $30,000 an acre for a piece of ground, they pay taxes on $30,000, and it still gets to where we're at right now. But now when they pay that inflated price, it brings our value up to a price that we're paying taxes on that we can't afford to even make a run at making that profitable or even breaking even at this point in time with our commodity prices. And it's going to hurt the farmers. There's going to be some farmers losing their way of life. So I'll get off my soapbox and we'll move on the agenda now. Correspondence. I see we do have something down on correspondence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll have passed in front of you here a letter from IS asking for a temporary office assistant. In the past, the way that you all have handled those is you take it, think about it, and then either, if you feel good about it, make a motion, or if you don't, think about it, and we can take it back up next week. So it's just your option on that, and I know that you've seen a lot from the IS department, but it's because kind of what's happening is people are being moved up from within. And so it creates openings. And then this one here, again, is a temporary office assistant. So it's just for you to kind of chew on. It looks to me like what I would recommend here is to take a week, think about it, and then maybe if you want, have me discuss it further with the IS director, get back to you type thing.
Okay.
Does that sound good to you?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. And then the next one is not as well, it's just not fun to discuss, but I did receive a letter of notice from our facilities director that they will be putting in notice and moving on. So wanted to pass that along to you too. So Jennifer Wagner will be moving along. And so anyway, that's something to look forward to and something that we need to plan for and have discussions with all the folks that remain in that department. But just wanted to pass that along to you too. We got that letter after, pardon me, the agenda posted. But anyway, just wanted to pass that along as well. That's all the correspondence I have for you at this time.
Thank you. And that is not good news. We're losing Jennifer Wagner. What a great individual, team player for this courthouse. I want to thank her for all of her time here at the county. Takes us down to public comment. Is there anybody for public comment? Do we have anybody on the phone?
Amendment 14, Section 3 says if you violate your oath to uphold the Constitution, which we've had several examples as you've gone through here. I believe the RCWs say the county can set their pay wages and their speed zones, and same for the city, but somehow they make these unconstitutional laws. When our country was being formed, we petitioned the king on his own laws. He put heavier taxes, Tories in homes with people's wives and daughters, and he gave him more laws, and he didn't enforce his own laws. So we had a bloody revolution. Our framers made sure we could do a bloodless revolution by holding people to their oath of office. And gentlemen, if you want me to come bring one before you and you turn me down, you will be on the hook for your oath of office. I don't want to do that. I want to work with you, and I have one of the highest legislators in the state saying they will take it to Harmeet Dillon, referrals to the DOJ on Bob Ferguson and every other stinking person that has voted to let any state office enroll somebody to vote. There is no habeas corpus for an illegal alien. And there's been some dodging in this state, and we figured out how they did it. So gentlemen, please put us back on the workshop. Please move forward. Please lead this state. I don't think you have anything to lose by having a constitutional compliance committee that will write up these petitions and start gathering signatures. The other option is I just bring it.
Anybody else for public comment? Nobody's on the phone. Do we have a need for an executive session?
No.
So, if there's no other business for the good of the county, and I don't hear anybody speaking up, I will adjourn the meeting. And if you don't mind, I don't need a break. Do you need a break? We'll move right into the work session, the workshop agenda. So at this time, we'll move into I'll call the workshop meeting to order and ask that we have VEBA contribution and Franklin County strategic plan. And so on those two topics, is there anybody for public comment? Oh, yes, we do got to get the approval of the workshop agenda.
Move for approval of workshop agenda as presented.
I second. Is there any comment? It's hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comment on the workshop agendas? Nobody coming forward? We'll move into VEBA contribution presented by Ms. Wilder.
You can bear with me, I actually have a presentation, I just need to get it uploaded. Oh, if I type in the correct password.
That's good.
Can you see this okay?
Yep.
We'll have to scroll back and forth, but, so this is just, to bring to you as an idea for making different contribution changes to the medical plans for non-BARGs for 2026. In that, making some adjustments, not only towards what's gonna go towards premiums, but also towards the VIBA amounts. I will say that my goal ultimately is to separate VIBA out of medical contributions completely. They are two very different things. I would like to see us go towards a set structure where VIBA is just an added benefit to each employee. It's a set amount. It's not the residual funds that the county would have to put forward towards medical premiums. That would be the goal. I don't think we're gonna get there next year. I don't think we're gonna possibly get there in the next few years. But it is a goal for a couple years down the road at least. That being said too, I want to, in this presentation, I'll kind of show you some numbers. We do not have numbers for our medical renewal for this year yet. We were told that we won't get them before next Monday, the 15th. Which is a little scary for our renewal, but with your approval of us changing some of the stuff on our contribution, or not the contributions, the system last year, it will, or for this year, it will change that. I'm gonna just, this is pretty interactive, so let me take this back to where it is currently. 150, 200, 125, whoops. 600 and 2,000. So currently, and again, this is non-BARGs, the employer pays 90%, so the county pays 90% of the premiums, the employee will pay the other 10. The VIBAs for each of the plans, 1,000, 2,000, 3,500, and 35 HSA, are 100, 150, 200, 125. Waivers were bumped up to $600 with a max contribution from the county at $2,000. So this is kind of where we're at sitting now. I did do a quick Google search. Premera was asking for individual marketplace plan increase at 17.9 for 2026. I am very much hoping that we're not even in the double digits for our renewal, but to be aggressive, I did, whoops, not a 200%, goodness. A 20% increase would cost the county, as status quo for everything else, around $137,000 for next year for premium increases. What I was looking to do to match one of the other groups is if the county goes back to 100%, and then if we change some VIBAs and make them all equal, including the waivers, and drop the max down to the 1,600, we're still at 138,000. If you subtract the two, you're around like a $12,000 difference. That being said, I am estimating at 20%. The lower this percentage goes down, the more the county will actually be the increase for it, but it won't be, it'll be lower than 138. But there is going to be an increase. So this is just to put it out there for you. Oh, and I will say some of this too, is we did estimate, we just threw some open vacancy positions. Not necessarily will they be filled, but potential for being filled. We just threw them on this 3,500 family plan. It's not the highest plan. That one would be the 1,000 plan, but it just estimates some numbers so a little bit higher. So this is interactive. I don't need to go through all the different scenarios.
No, hang on a second.
Yeah,
You just said that you put them on the 3,500 plan
the 3,500
and not the
HSA.
1,000 plan, because the 1,000 would be higher?
The 1,000 would be higher.
Wouldn't-
When I first started working with,
We want to look at the worst possible thing and put them all in the 1,000 plan and see what that would gonna be?
so that would be 140,000.
There you go. That's the way I operate. I always look at the worst possible scenario. That way you'll never get surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we don't have to go into major in-depth, any conversation you want to have. I can plug in other numbers. You can see these were the costs of 2024. We didn't have VEBA on there, but for 2025. So there is going to be an increase for 2026. Just hands down, there will be, because of the medical premiums increase. I will say too, with the idea of taking a $300 VEBA for every employee, regardless of what plan you're on, regardless of waiving, this would also take away any residual VEBA from the dental. So, I don't get $320 because I'm on a dental plan that gets more and somebody else only gets $300. It would just be a flat rate. You get $300 towards your VEBA. That's what you get as an employee for Franklin County. Now, what are we going to focus our money on for the medical premiums? That's really where we're spending. We know we're going to have an increase.
So I'm glad you went to the 20%, but put in 10% and see where we're at.
Leaving the 300, whoops,
Just
I'm
10%,
zero happy.
A 10% increase.
Yeah.
Takes
So-
us down to 98 or?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes,
we put a lot of faith in this guy that we went with, and Mr. Henderson, so hopefully he'll come through for us, huh? All right.
yeah. So anyway, some food for thought. I would love to bring something back to you when we have an idea of what our premiums are going to be. Then we'd have a lot more realistic plan, because there is option of maybe the employer, we go up to 100% versus that 90-10, leave the plan VEBAs alone for next year, probably drop the waivers to 300, and just kind of plug and play and see what those numbers look like. There's still going to be a cost because we have the premium costs increase. It won't be as high.
Yep.
So there's options. Like I said, I don't think we're going to get there next year. I think that's shooting for the stars. We might as well go there. But in a couple years, I think we could get here pretty easily. And I will say, one of the biggest complaints I heard from employees was the 90-10 split. Yes, there was the, drop down on VEBA. Some people got VEBA. They've never had VEBA the entire time they've worked here.
Right.
But it was the 90-10 split. So if we can go back to, because you can see our numbers are high on the employee-only counts. And these are just non-bargs that I have on here. But, you have a few because this is the cheapest plan, if you want to call it that. But we have a lot of employees on employee-only. And especially across the county.
I'll just say we got into this bad situation because of this unconstitutional pay that we had people participating in, which was ruled by our state AG as unconstitutional pay. And it's not going to be an easy road back. It never is, because money is a drug and people like their money. And it's tough to get it away from them once you've gotten it.
Right. If you remember the resolution, I know you've had a lot in front of you, but back that we approved for 2025's benefits for this change, part of that resolution was for at least the elected individuals that will end, that major one, by the end of 2026 when
Good.
positions terms were over. So there is that on the horizon too. But again, it's, if we set this and it's 300, it might be cash in lieu, but it's not the higher amount.
Exactly.
So, do you have any questions?
Mr. Danzel?
No?
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good presentation.
Thank you.
I like how you can just throw numbers in there and change that bottom line.
Yes, mostly I got that from Tim, so I kind of stole his it was his from last year, but I had to redo my calculations to make sure they're all right, so.
That Tim is worth his weight in gold, I'm
He
telling
is,
you.
he is.
All right, so now we'll move down to the Franklin County Strategic Planning. Mr. Danzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to think I'm getting there. Yeah, here we are. Okay, bear with me and let me just make sure I've got everything set up. Yes, I do. Okay, so this is based off of already the steps that we've taken in the strategic plan process. As a kind of a reminder, we are accepting people's comments and surveys up till the end of this month, so we're not completely through this yet, but I wanted to kind of show you where we are and what I've put together here for you, so. Part of the strategic process is coming up with a vision statement. All of this that I've done, by the way, this is why we're doing it in a workshop. This is just something that I'm hearing from you when I meet with you folks individually. A beacon of liberty and prosperity. That's some of the words that I hear being bandied about from all the elected officials is that we're right here, to foster a Franklin County where individual liberty thrives, economic prosperity is accessible to all, and government operates with unparalleled wisdom, efficiency, and fiscal prudence, ensuring a vibrant future for generations to come. And that matches what we're getting so far in our responses from the folks that are participating in our surveys. They want that. You can tell that's pretty high on their list.
So if they're listening out there right now, how do they get a hold of that survey? It's online, right?
It's right on our landing page of our website. Yep, at Franklin County Government.
So please participate out there. If you can get on and fill that out, please do. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely, we do. And the purpose of today's presentation is to articulate the foundational principles that will guide our decisions and actions for the future of Franklin County. All right. Core principle number 1, fiscal responsibility and lower taxes. If I've heard one thing for sure from all 3 of the commissioners, it's that they want to try to keep taxes as low as possible and to be fiscally responsible. And so this is our commitment. And this is, again, this is all open to suggested changes. If you don't like what you see, you let me know. But when you told me to take it and run with it, I did. So I apologize. You see in the bottom left-hand corner, I call it the big, beautiful PowerPoint, because it's a combination of about 3 different presentations here. So we envision a county government that is a steadfast steward of taxpayer dollars, committed to minimizing the tax burden on our citizens and businesses. I've had all 3 commissioners say that. I think they've all 3 probably said it here in a meeting a time or 2. Our approach, we believe in lean, efficient government that prioritizes essential services, eliminates wasteful spending, and empowers residents to retain more of their hard-earned money, stimulating local investment and growth. I would add to that that I think that the a little extra bullet point that I could possibly add to that is that also folks want to make sure that their roads are taken care of and that we are continuing to allow the road fund to stay untouched. And I can tell you, I know the folks out of Public Works have enjoyed the ability to be able to chip seal more than they've been able to chip seal in recent years because of that. And if you can continue that, it'll help with the infrastructure problems that not problems, but challenges that we face. Part of what we're going to go through today in a later part of this slide will be our SWOT analysis, our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that's a big part of this too. Core principle number 2, and again, these are the core principles that I'm hearing you say, so if you have any problems with these, change it and let me know. Freedom and individual choice. That's something that I've heard from all the commissioners individually when we meet, but also, again, just in the way that you conduct yourselves and the way that you're wanting to move this government. A good example of this would be commissioners when you're trying to have bylaws changes take place at by county health so that you can protect property owners when it comes to septic systems. Our commitment is that we champion the fundamental rights and freedoms of every Franklin County resident. Our approach will be that our policies will be consistent and to uphold the individual liberty, protect property rights, reduce unnecessary regulations that hinder personal initiative, entrepreneurship, and the pursuit of happiness. We trust in the wisdom of our citizens to make the best decisions for themselves and their families. That's probably something that I've heard the most with you gentlemen, is that we don't want to be the ones playing the part of king and telling the people what they're going to do. We know that we've got smart citizens that are informed and that can make their own best decisions. So I think that that's got to be part of our core principles. Core principle number 3, limited government and wise public policy. Our commitment is that we're dedicated to crafting public policies that are thoughtful, data-driven, and narrowly tailored to address the genuine needs of the community without overreach. That goes hand in hand with a limited government, correct? And then our approach emphasizes local control, common sense solution, and a commitment to preserving the unique character and values of Franklin County. We will ensure that every policy decision reflects a deep respect to the constitutional principles, limits government's scope to its essential functions, and provides a clear benefit to the well-being and security of our constituents. As we've talked about before, the role of county commissioner originally was county road commissioner. So like roads and public safety are the two biggest, parts that we need to be aware of. Historically, it's a tradition. And this is the first part of my presentation as we get into a couple more that we've combined here. The conclusion here is that the outcome that through these guiding principles, Franklin County will stand as a testament to responsible governance, haven for economic opportunity. Try saying that 10 times fast, right? I got that really good. And a community where freedom and self-reliance are celebrated and secured. And so this is going to serve as our our guiding document on how we get there. So again, I would love it if there's any of these that you don't agree with: limited government and wise public policy, empowering freedom and individual choice, fiscal responsibility and lower taxes. But that's just what I've heard when talking to you gentlemen. So I just wanted to put that out there. Are there any questions up until this point about where we're at, or do you want to change any of those?
Absolutely not. I think they're spot on.
All right.
I agree. That's a great job.
Thank you very much. Well, then, if you like that, you're going to love this. No. But wait, what's next? This is what I was talking about earlier. This is called the SWOT analysis, and this is our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is a good exercise to go through. And so, if nothing else, if you don't remember any other part of today, I think this part right here will be the most memorable. Let's see. The purpose of today's presentation is to provide a comprehensive analysis of Franklin County's governmental position, identifying internal strengths and weaknesses and external opportunities and threats. This analysis is aligned with conservative principles of limited government, fiscal discipline, individual liberties, and wise public policy. And why do we do this? To inform the whole entire process, frankly, to highlight areas for improvement, and to leverage advantages for the county's future. Again, these are all going to be hypothetical, so just stay with that too. Fiscal prudence emphasis. These are, what do we do well? What are our advantages right now internally? Fiscal prudence emphasis. Our stated commitment to fiscal discipline and minimizing tax burdens promotes efficient use of taxpayer money and can attract businesses and residents seeking lower costs. With new building, and when you take that into consideration, and you also see the growth in Franklin County, and we'll get to some of the demographics later, and you'll see exactly what that is. There's but no doubt that it's been a priority of this board to keep the tax burden low and to try and attract as many businesses as possible. So that's a strength. Another strength is that local control and community focus. Our emphasis on trying to restore and preserve local control, preserve community character that allows for tailored situations that reflect the unique needs and the values of our citizens, rather than a one-size-fits-all mandates. I think one of the things that we recognize here is that not every community is going to be the same, not every neighborhood's even going to be the same, and that folks, that's okay. And liberty and freedom doesn't mean just liberty and freedom for the ways that you think like me on, Liberty and freedom is the full meal deal. We know that, for example, an advantage is our robust agricultural and economic base, and we know that the ag sector is by far, in a way, our strongest portion of our economy. But we also know that food manufacturing and a growing technology presence provide a stable economic foundation and diverse employment opportunities, contributing to the county's self-reliance, with the one question mark being what Commissioner Didier mentioned earlier. When commodity prices are so low and the cost of doing business is so high, you have to always have that in mind. And so when we get in here, you'll see later on, one of the threats is, even though we're trying to do everything right to keep that burden low and the regulations down, sometimes it's not viewed that way, even though you're trying your very level best. But a robust agricultural and economic base is an important part of our strategic plan and what we do well. Clear property rights protection. And I think that this has been so true and so visible. Your commitment to protecting private property rights and interests fosters a strong sense of ownership and encourages private investment and development. And that's why you brought in Wes McCart. You brought in Wes to help help foster in some of that change, and so that we can make some of the adjustments that makes it easier for folks out there to be able to do business without unnecessary red tape. I think what you gentlemen have all told me is that you're not looking to circumvent any kind of, laws or anything like that. You're looking to reduce the amount of red tape that a property owner has when they want to build a home and put in a septic tank, for example. And I think that that's very, very much in alignment with the words and the surveys that we're getting back and the answers that we're getting back from the public. What are some of our weaknesses, areas for internal improvement? Well, we have limited revenue sources. Washington state counties primarily rely on property and sales taxes, with property tax capped at 1% annually plus new construction. And this creates a structural gap where revenue growth may not keep pace with the rising costs of services. Now, why do I put that in there? It's not that I think that you all want to raise property taxes 1% every year, because I know that you don't. It's really informational for the public to see what you're balancing, because you know that the 1% isn't going to keep up with the inflation, and then combined with the fact that there are certain areas where the funding model has just become obsolete and ineffective. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I'll give you a good example of that. A good example of that would be when the state of Washington goes and they want to have a mandate to have all electric vehicles by 2030. But we're still paying on bonds that were taken during the Mike Lowry governorship. That's a real fact. And so to be able to just kind of change that willy-nilly is not going to really be possible. That's why if you saw in the state legislature, they've been having more bills where they want to pursue like a vehicle miles driven tax, where they actually literally, when you do emissions testing, they want to come in and be able to look at your odometer, and that's when they'll be able to apply the taxes to you based on how many miles you've driven. And there's a lot of other.
Isn't that also because the electrical vehicles, they can charge them the same tax?
Yeah.
Because they're miles driven.
Yeah, that's why they're looking to get away from the gas tax and go to that. That's correct. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Reliance on state and federal funding. We always, every single meeting that I've been in, we talk about this. While advocating for local control, certain county services and projects may depend on state or federal funding, which can come with mandates, strings attached, or be subject to unpredictable cuts impacting local autonomy. And that is so true when it comes to, the Growth Management Act started as a grant. And another area that you can see this where it really takes shape is like the Public Works. When the Federal Highway Administration is in tatters and they're not run real well, you'll get things that don't make sense. Like I was telling Craig Erdman this, in Ferry County, we would get delineators to put on gravel roads that we knew that we were just going to mow over the first time that we graded in the spring. So you receive this money to put in, equipment that you're going to destroy in the spring. What kind of sense does that make? How come we can't decide locally where to spend it? But that's true. That is a weakness for us because we are subject to unpredictable funding when it comes to either both grants or if we're allotted funds out of in one of the capital budgets. Potential for overregulation perception. This is what I was talking about earlier. Despite our commitment to limited government, the complexity of managing various county departments can lead to the perception of bureaucratic hurdles or overregulation for citizens and businesses. And I think each of you have brought me a case or two, or maybe possibly more, of where someone's struggling. They don't exactly know where the hiccup is, but there's a hiccup that's taken place. And I think it does add to this, where I know and you know that all we talk about is trying to reduce and remove regulations and unnecessary red tape. But does the public know? And do we need to maybe do a better job of communicating that? And by we, do I need to do a better job of communicating that through whether it's statements, press releases, whatnot? I think that there is room for improvement there. Workforce and infrastructure needs. So rapid population growth can strain existing infrastructure and require increased public services, posing a challenge to maintaining a lean government while meeting growing demands. I think this has been Franklin County's challenge for a great number of years in looking back at the budgets and with the growth that's happened down here in this area. When you look 20 years ago, what Pasco, Washington looked like compared to now, it's a totally different everything. And so that's a lot of change in a short amount of time, really. And so The idea being that the infrastructure needs are there, and that if we can leave the road fund alone, it's not gonna be easy. But the more that you can do that, and the more you can do that in consecutive years, the better that all becomes, because they can actually start chipping away at some of the issues that I know that you get calls on. Then you'll have the money to do it. It won't just be thoughts. You can turn those thoughts into actionable items. Communication and engagement, I think I talked about this. Ensuring all citizens feel their voices are heard and that the government affairs are conducted as close to the people as possible. This can be a continuous challenge requiring proactive and transparent communication strategies, and I think I already touched on that, but that's accurate. You don't want people to think that they're being shined on. You don't want people leaving thinking that they're not getting a genuine discussion when they come in and talk to people from the government. And I'll take it a step further. I would like to see, and this is just something in my opinion where this is a weakness that we could make it positive. Say somebody comes to your department, and I don't have the right to tell anybody this, but this would be an ask from the county administrator. If someone comes to your department, just happened here the other day with Teresa and the gals did a great job. But why? And they say they go to the wrong department. Now you could just say, why don't you take the stairs, go up, and hang a left, 2 rights, and you'll be there. Or you could, unless you're really busy with something, set down what you're doing. Go, well, you know what? Let me walk you to where that is, and take the person or persons and walk them to where they need to go. Do you know how much better of a response you get from people taking that approach, and how much they'll remember it, and then in fact they'll comment on it. I've gotten phone calls on it. People telling me, I just wanted to let you know that I was lost, I didn't know where to go, and it's been folks all over the spectrum that I'll get these notes on. But so-and-so it was so nice, they took a couple minutes out of their day and they walked me from where they were working all the way to wherever it had to be. So things like that, I think that are just, they're small things, but boy, if you can't get the small things right, how do you ever expect to get the big ones right? And that's kind of one of those that just always stuck with me. And maybe that's an expectation I have. And again, I can't ask elected officials to do that. And department heads have got to have the autonomy to do their own thing. But that's an example of what I'm talking about with communication and engagement, is making people feel that their voices are heard, because that's what we're here for. We're here serving them.
And they're appreciated.
And
What
they're
you
very-
that example you gave is they feel appreciated because you escort them to the place they need to go.
Yeah, and I think it's almost a generational thing. I think like we knew to do that earlier on in life, and I blame a lot of it. I guess my deal is, and this may not be nice, I'm not taking a political stance here, but I think one of the issues that really, really happened that was bad with COVID is that it took away that interpersonal connectedness. I really believe that.
I did.
Instead of going to block parties and 9-pin no-tap bowling leagues, people are stuck in their homes and they're on their computer devices, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, and I don't think a lot of the people around here think that is either. Opportunities. External and positive. Here we go. Economic diversification. As agriculture continues to drive the local economy, the growing tech sector and other industries present opportunities for further economic diversification, creating new jobs and expanding the tax base without increasing tax rates. And that's what you want, right? We want to be able to expand the tax base and keep the rates as low as possible, so that people are wanting to come down here. Strategic partnerships, collaborating with neighboring counties, state agencies, and private sector entities can leverage resources and expertise for regional development, infrastructure projects, and shared services, enhancing efficiency. Now, that goes both ways. That goes both ways. And part of the budget shortfalls committee, you'll remember that we are looking at ILAs and we're looking at all these agreements to make sure that we are doing the best job that we can, financially speaking, for the people's money. This is the citizens' money. I always tell people that, like, this isn't just, like what I'd like to do or what we want to do. This is important stuff. This is taxpayer money. These are the taxpayers that are our boss. Technological adoption. I think that, and I know that Bo was in here earlier, but implementing new technologies that can improve government efficiency, streamlining permitting processes, enhance public access to information, and reduce operational costs, aligning with fiscal responsibility. You know, we've talked about Wes out at planning, for example, and the permitting and how long that takes. When Wes comes in and brings something to you, I think it's worthwhile to listen to what he's got to say, because there might be a way that we could streamline some of that. I think he's got ideas for how to do that. Right now, actually, I know he does. So that's something that we need to be exploring. I think an opportunity we have always is attracting businesses and residents. Our commitment to lower taxes, less regulation, and a pro-freedom environment can make Franklin County highly attractive to businesses and individuals seeking to relocate from more heavily regulated or taxed areas. You hear it all the time, actually. You hear it when you're in I live in Connell, and so I'll hear it in the stores up there. People will be talking about how they just couldn't afford to live in the I-5 corridor anymore. And so they needed to get out, and they're so thankful, because with that has come less traffic and more retail services, frankly, where people know each other. You know, like out in Eltopia and some of the other outlying areas, Colotus, you know people by what car they drive. You can go, well, there goes so-and-so because there's the old red Ford pickup, or there goes so-and-so because there's this or that. It's pretty interesting, and doing the strategic plan, how close our communities really are, and how much everybody's pretty much interconnected. Community engagement initiatives develop innovative ways to involve citizens in policy discussions and decision-making, can strengthen civic participation, and ensure policies truly reflect community values and needs. You've had a comment here today in this meeting about possibly having a workshop. You know, things like that, where folks, if you want to let them come in and just be able to talk for a little bit about an issue that might be engaging to the community, they have the opportunity to do that. They have the vehicle for doing that, and we can do that moving forward. Threats, and these are external and these are negative, so these come from outside, but something that we have to consider while we address this. The first one is something that we've all said so many times that, frankly, we could, there's an old saying, we could puke coat hangers. That's how much we've said it. Unfunded mandates and federal mandates. State or federal mandates may impose new requirements or regulations on counties without providing adequate funding, forcing Franklin County to either raise taxes, cut other services, or find alternative revenue, directly challenging fiscal goals. Now, I know that you're not ever going to take a vote in the affirmative to raise taxes, but this is something that's always a concern that's ongoing, because if you have a steady supply of funding and you're used to it, and then that goes away, a good example would be PILT, payment in lieu of taxes, that the federal government doesn't have to pay on. If all of a sudden that those are cut at the federal level, I'll tell you another one that's happening, and this is, you gentlemen are aware of this, when we go to try to receipt grant funding, and at the same time, the federal and the state government's goals don't align. And you saw that with the tax credits when it came to the clean energy codes. So some of these unfunded mandates and these grants and the strings that are attached, it always gives me the EBGBs, if you will, because you got to really look into the fine print. I think I've told you about maybe I haven't, maybe I have. Did I ever tell you about the time that we signed up to buy a new grader with a grant fund? It was great. We're going to get new road graders and this and that and the other. But the only thing was that we had to go completely carbon neutral in 5 years. Well, we sold the equipment that we had purchased at a loss, paid the grant back out of other funds, and said we're obviously not going to be able to do that. So that's always a consideration when you take a look at these unfunded state and federal mandates, is that what also are you getting involved in, even if they fund it? I should have put in there also, and funded mandates. Some of the funded mandates aren't necessarily always the greatest thing, and that's a threat as well. Economic downturns. Now, we've talked about this before in the past. Broader economic recessions or industry-specific downturns, like in agriculture, as Commissioner Didier has mentioned, could reduce tax revenues, making it difficult to maintain essential services and balance the budget without compromising conservative principles. So I think that you gentlemen have done everything that you can, and that's at your fingertips, to be able to make the economic conditions just right for Franklin County. I think that when you look at the demographics, you'll see the growth that's taken place even in 10 years. But I think that that is a potential threat that we have to look at. If the housing alone, we saw what that did in 2008, right? And so just one sector of the economy can take down an entire economy. So we just have to be cognizant of that. And when you talk to folks that are aware of the real estate market, for example, they see, and this isn't me speaking here, this is just kind of reaching out to folks in the community. They see a lot of similarities of what's happening right now and what happened in '08 with that. And so I caution people on that too, that those are out of our control. That's out of our control how that all happens. Population growth pressures. While an opportunity, rapid population growth also poses a threat if not managed wisely. It can lead to increased demand for services, public safety, road, schools, potential strain on resources, and challenges in maintaining the county's desired character and infrastructure without significant tax increases. A good, something that would fall under this is our donut holes that need to be annexed probably. That would make more sense. Because if we are not looking at that as kind of a regional approach, and we're not looking to that as a partner to the city of Pasco, then you can get a little bit sideways with how do you handle that. You have to work with Pasco because that's the population center of the area, while at the same time understanding that we're going to have increased services that we have to provide, and how do we do that in a fiscally responsible way? One of the ways of doing that is cleaning up some of those donut holes in certain areas that need to be annexed and understanding who's going to perform what service where. External regulatory environment. Now, this is something that is probably the most frustrating. This is the one that I know that you gentlemen get frustrated with. State or federal environmental regulations, land use policies, or other mandates could conflict with local control and private property rights, requiring the county to navigate complex legal and political challenges. And I know it's always every commissioner, frankly, on the east of the Cascades deals with that. Because there are certain things that you can do, and there are certain things that you don't have any control over, and it's most of the people think that you have a lot more power than you do. And then the other thing is, when you finally tell folks, well, I am a commissioner, but I'm 1/3 of a board of commissioners, and so even then, if you've got a really great idea, you've got to get somebody else to vote for it. So just keeping that in mind. And I think that you've done really great in this regard too, in your messaging and being able to tell folks, why things are happening and when they're happening. But it goes back to Commissioner Didier, a couple of things that you said, Commissioner Mullen, what you and I have talked about privately before, as well as in these meetings. And it's like, they're just a lot of times on this environmental stuff, there's not a business approach taken. There's no worry about the poor citizen that's just trying to build a home or trying to buy a home or trying to do something. That isn't ever taken into account. You gentlemen always take that into account. So that's not really a threat with this Board of Commissioners, but it's a threat because of the perception of it. And then also the perception of limited services. A strong focus on limited government and lower taxes, if not carefully balanced with effective service delivery, could lead to a public perception of insufficient or declining public services, potentially eroding public trust. This kind of is in conjunction with the growing population pressures. So when you look at that and you say, we're getting bigger and it's going to require more services, you just have to do it in a way that makes financial sense. You can't grow faster than you're supposed to be growing, financially. Conclusion, this SWOT analysis provides a critical foundation for our strategic planning. By understanding our strengths, addressing our weaknesses, capitalizing on opportunities, and mitigating threats, we can ensure Franklin County remains a beacon of liberty and prosperity. Our commitment to conservative principles will guide our actions in navigating these challenges and opportunities. And so kind of what I want to do there, did you see anything in there that you thought jumped out at you that I need to get? But I wanted to just take a look. If there's areas in here that you disagree with, or if you think that we need to change, let me know. These are just what I came up with. These are the external factors that I see on a daily basis, being the county administrator here. Nope. Did you guys have any comments?
No, it's a great job
Yeah.
putting that together, and I think it's spot on as far as what direction we want to be going.
Very good.
Rid of the unfunded mandates.
I do
It's kind
too.
of out of our hands.
I think if you got the right person, a deep fried Twinkie.
Oh, the whole thing about the unfunded mandates, it's much like the public comment we had today about, they're violating the Constitution. Our avenue would be to take it to court, which would end up in the state Supreme Court. And then the state Supreme Court is already so far out of whack. Our other avenue, we got to get to the U.S. Supreme Court. We got to get this before somebody who can make a ruling. And if we can't get that, and I've been down this route, and I've spent a lot of money trying to get, and I was before the state Supreme Court. Actually, we won the first round in Thurston County, and then we went to the state Supreme Court and lost. But that's what we're facing in this state. And the coalition of counties is the route we need to go. We need to make alliances with these eastern, and I wasn't kidding around about a 51st state. There's been a lot of talk about this for decades. And I think maybe we ought to lead the way on trying to get Matt Shea's 51st state back on the docket and maybe separate ourselves from the west side. Cascade Range would be the boundary, and we could take eastern Oregon with us. Create our own state.
I just want to be the governor of the new state.
You got my vote.
No, I hear you. I know the concerns. That's what I always used to tell people. That's why you fight so hard for local control, because as
Yes.
long as you can have local control, you can shield yourself from some of that other stuff. And I don't know where it ends up. I know that I think that I'm a big believer in the pendulum. I think the pendulum will swing too far, and then it'll end up having to come back, because it's just the way that the nature of history, frankly, is. You can look at it throughout history, and not just in this country, that usually they start trying, certain civilizations even will start trying certain things, and then it'll have to come back to the middle a little bit, because it's just gotten so far out of whack.
And we're there.
Yeah, I think we are. And I'm going to really speed through this. I've got just a little bit more to go.
Okay.
So this is what strategic goal setting, and then again, this is just examples, developing SMART goals for the county's future. Introduction from vision to action. Our vision of Franklin County, where liberty thrives. We've already been over that. What are SMART goals? SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And I think that all makes sense, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time there, because I know this has already been a big presentation. Here's a good example of a goal. By December 31st of 2028, Franklin County will reduce the average per capita county tax burden by 5%, adjusted for inflation, through optimized operational efficiencies and strategic resource allocation without compromising essential public services. So it's specific, it focuses on what we're going to do, it's measurable, so you know what we're going to do. It is achievable, because it's not saying that we're going to, it's not 80%, it's 5%. It's relevant, because it directly supports the mission of fiscal discipline, and it's time-bound, because we're saying that we're going to get it done right by 2028 there, or 2020, yes, 2028. Here's another example of a goal. And again, these are examples, but this is where I'll need your help moving forward of what our goals are going to be. But by December 31st, 2029, Franklin County will increase the number of new business registrations by 15% and decrease the average time for critical development permits by 25% to foster a more dynamic and accessible economic environment. Now, again, that's just an example. That's not, I haven't talked with Wes if 25% is doable. I haven't talked with anybody to see if the 15% is a realistic number by 2029, but I think it is based on averages. I haven't forecast it, but on the averages in the past, I think that we could hit this. And again, this would be considered a SMART measure, because it's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. It aligns with what we're trying to do. And so this is kind of when I'm talking about our overarching goals. These are kind of what we need to keep in mind. Certain things that we would avoid would be like, some kind of pie in the sky ideas, or something that you wish could happen, but that probably isn't going to happen. You don't want to use those in your strategic plan, because you have way too much of what you need to have happen on hope. And while hope is a good thing to have, you don't want to plan on just hope alone, you know? You want to be able to make it something that you can actually make a dent in. Most of this stuff is incremental. I'll just be honest. You don't get to your final result. We're not going to get to our reserve number tomorrow. It's going to take, doing it like a slice of bread at a time instead of a loaf of bread at a time, if that makes sense. So, all right, we've gone through that. Oop, did I go too quick? Here was another example. This was one that I came up with because I just was on the heels of talking with some of the folks in the public safety space. But reduce the average response time for emergency services by 10%, and increase community engagement in public safety initiatives by 20%. I think that would be supported by law enforcement. I think that it would be specific because it focuses on emergency response time and efficiency. It's measurable. Again, this is just something that I came up with because it's an example of what you could use. It directly addresses our core government function, and it gives us a time deadline. Another one that I came up with was infrastructure modernization and sustainability. By December 31 of 2030, Franklin County will complete the modernization or significant upgrade of 25% of its identified critical infrastructure assets, and implement a new digital infrastructure management system to enhance long-term sustainability and efficiency. Now, one of the things, you've got a good egg in Bo Beckley. He does a fine job for us as our IS director. So he kind of thinks like this anyway. But this is something that we need to have on our strategic plan so that we're not getting left behind. There's a lot of advancements and efficiencies that if you use the right technology that we can realize, and we need to. Next step in the strategic planning process. I would like if I could talk to you gentlemen about refining and adopting those goals that we went over. So if you could provide some feedback, that would be wonderful. Develop departmental objectives. Each county department, after we can get into the next phase, can then create specific supporting objectives aligned with these overarching goals. That's what you're hoping for. You want people to be able to have the buy-in, and we need to. Outline specific strategies, initiatives, and responsible parties for each objective. That makes sense. That's kind of how it's action planning, how you go about trying to figure out how you're going to get it done and not just said. I think we all get frustrated when we go to meetings or we go to conventions, and there's a lot of great things that are said, and then there's no action ever taken. That drives me nuts. I don't know about you guys, but it drives me crazy. So we're not going to be part of that program. Performance monitoring. This is something that I'm very big on. Establish regular reporting and review mechanisms to track progress. I think that's only makes common sense. There's no reason to even engage in any of this if we're not actually going to look at what we're doing, how we're doing, and if we need to make any adjustments, what are we doing anything for, right? So it's like having a game plan. The reason that they keep score is because you want to know who wins and loses, right? So we got to have performance review there. We got to have performance monitoring. Public communication, transparently share goals and progress with Franklin County citizens. Maybe the most important, and I think one of the most heralded things about being a county commissioner is how much engagement there really is. I know that you gentlemen are always engaged in the community, and you're at meetings and you're trying to get out there and do everything that you can. But I don't know that everybody knows that. And so I think that doing a better job, and again, I put this at my feet, at communication. I think that's going to be a big thing in our next steps of this planning, because we're getting good feedback right now. We're getting a lot of feedback right now. And it's going to be good for us to be able to utilize that data so that we can put it into our strategic plan. I think it's important and incumbent upon us everywhere we go to make sure that people feel heard and that they know that there's still time to provide that comment and fill out that survey. Okay, I'm going to skip right into the demographics, and then we'll be done, I promise you. Here's why I said what I just said. The analysis below will kind of show you the kind of what has been taking place in Franklin County. Now, this right here is an estimate. We don't really know exactly because this is based on the census. But from 2010 to 2020, it went from 78,000 to 96,000. 23.8% increase. Youthful and aging population shifts. Franklin County has a relatively young median age, but also shows an increase in its older population. The median age in 2023, 30.8 years. Between 2010 and 2022, it was closer to 35, the 49 age group was the fastest growing. The share of the population aged 65 and older increased from 7.3 to 10.4%. This right here is, will kind of tell a little bit of a story. Robust median income, or median household income growth. Look at that, went from 56,000 in 2015 to in 2023, it's 82,000, almost 83,000. It's almost like a $30,000 jump. A lot of that is inflation-based too, you know, I think. Key industries and employment trends. The county's economy primarily driven by agriculture-related industries with growing diversification. So it kind of shows the breakdown of what all the people are, where they're working. Agriculture, healthcare, retail trade. Highest paying industries in 2023 anyway, the utilities, mining, and then oil and gas extraction and exploration. Overall employment in Franklin County grew by 1.37%. The unemployment rate, Franklin County's unemployment rate dropped to 3.9%, down from 5% the previous month and 4% year over year. This indicates a healthy and improving job market. It also indicates that you're not doing anything to put impediments in the way from people being able to find work. Some considerations: economic diversification. Agriculture remains a foundational, iconic industry in Franklin County, and there's a recognized and growing technology sector alongside food and beverage manufacturing, contributing to a more diversified economic base. The county's economic development policy actively encourages diversification to promote economic opportunity and job creation. And I think that's true. I think you guys have done a good job of being able to balance what you know are the needs of your constituents, whether it's farmers out in Connell or Eltopia or storefront business owners here in Pasco. You guys are getting out there and listening and are engaged. Business environment. Franklin County aims to offer a robust economic environment with features like faster permitting, lower taxes, and less regulation, which can attract new businesses and support existing ones. Some of this is a little bit redundant, but I just wanted to get all the information in there for you. And I'll email this to you too, and whoever wants it actually. They can just ask and we'll email it to them. In summary, Franklin County has experienced significant demographic shifts alongside strong economic growth characterized by rising incomes and a resilient job market, despite some recent industry-specific fluctuations. Agriculture remains vital, complemented by the emerging technology and manufacturing. And that really is the final slide there. But I needed to do that because we needed to get caught up on people's schedule. We had folks that couldn't be here. I know in the past I would have loved to have made it when Commissioner Bauman gets back, but we still need to continue forward with this. I'm looking forward to the end of the month when we get all of the surveys in and we get all the data and information. And that's the time to me that makes sense to give the next update, is after we finalize getting all the public input and scoping. And so then I can take that, have a couple days to be able to put that into action. Give you a heads up, kind of some of the stuff that I hear from the surveys or that we're seeing. It's continuation of everything that you've been pushing: lower taxes, less regulation. I'd say there's an emphasis from some folks in the agricultural community to fight wind and solar farms.
Yep.
That's something that's popped up quite regularly. And the other one that I've seen is a wise and prudent use of financial resources so that eventually someday, by leaving the road fund alone, we can get to some of these outlying areas and get those roads up to snuff. And that's what I'm seeing on the survey so far. And I've been really thankful for all the folks that have, I'd like to say that, thank you to everybody that's engaged in that, because we're only as good as that. You know, we're trying to do what we can for the people, and I'll try to make my next one shorter. These were actually 4 combined presentations that I've kept having to kick off from the workshops because schedules just wouldn't be able to handle them at the time. So let me know. Let me know if you want me to make changes to any of the goals, to any of the kind of the criterion for how we get there. to the public. Let us know if you'd like a copy of this. We'd love to send it out. We have no problem at all. We'd like more people, the better, to take a look at this and see where we're going. And I think we're going to have a really great way to move forward. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Danzel. Commissioner Mullen, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I'll just say thank you for a job well done, and I appreciate all your hard work. So,
And I'm hearing from constituents from you, and I guess you received an email from one of them complimenting you on your job well done. And he was very adamant in making sure that he told me that he was very appreciative of you when you spoke up and said, no more of this bringing us these requests, which are resolutions at the last minute. And he was very appreciative to the fact that you said, we're not going to do this anymore. You're going to get it to us early so we can look at it and review it. Last minute resolutions that needed to be passed right now or we lose our grant funding. That's what he said, and he was very appreciative of that. So I'm hearing back from the constituents of Franklin County, and I encourage people who are out there, and we got a good listening audience. I've got a lot of neighbors that are talking to me about the meetings, and I said, do you listen to the meetings? Oh, yeah. And they said, we're very interested in what's going on, and we're very appreciative of what's going on right now. So big thank you to you, Mr. Danzel, for your hard work and your great work that you're doing for the county. So with that, we have public comment. Is there anybody for public comment?
I love that presentation. A lot of it is hitting really well. What is frustrating is that we're one of the fastest growing counties in the state, if not the country, and yet we're struggling to pay our bills. And a lot of it, I'm going to come back to this, is the unconstitutional compliance that our state is demanding. And I don't mean to be offensive, but you only go to court if you're taking somebody's liberty, property, or life. Everything else is up to the people, of the people, by the people, and for the people to redress their grievances through a First Amendment petition. When somebody violates their oath, like a judge, they're removable from office. When they do not keep separate powers and make demands, and I would like the chance and the opportunity to prove that to you. Men equally informed often do not often disagree. And we've been trained that we have to go through the courts to get things done. The Constitution says that the courts have no jurisdiction over the parties to the contract, and that's what our state was started with. The Constitution is contract law, it's not case law. And we've destroyed it with 4,000 pages of annotated case law. And we have a very viable source, not just the Constitution itself, but our founding fathers and the ratification debates that defined exactly and should have been the handbook to the Constitution. And gentlemen, I'm behind you. COLAS, a number of counties. I have a former legislator that works in another county, says when the counties get together, the state starts to shake. And the state has overrun and trained us by their tyrannical ways, and we're repeating history. So I look forward to a workshop where we can present you a much more viable and much more less expensive option that is the way our founders designed it to be. Thank you.
Anybody on the phones? Nobody else, public comment? So at this time, it says executive session if needed. I don't think we need an executive session, or wait a minute, that's the regular, here we are. Yeah, is there any other business? So at this time, I will adjourn the workshop.